There isn't a black American on earth that is surprised by what just happened to Carmelo Anthony. In a stand your ground state, while standing his ground. Not one black face in that jury box, not one peer, not one person who has ever navigated this country in melanated skin. And if you think that doesn't matter, then you haven't been paying attention to the last 400 years of American history. Because you don't want to. This is not new. This is the system working exactly as it was designed. The reason this keeps happening, the reason we keep standing at these grave sites, at these courthouses, at these press conferences with tears and signs and hashtags is because Black America doesn't have any collective political or economic power. When you don't control the legislation, when you don't control who sits on the bench and who draws the jury pool, your outrage, however righteous, does not move this racist machine. Liberation has never been given. It has always been taken. And until Black America builds the kind of consolidated economic and political power that makes the cost of this oppression too high to sustain, we will keep seating all white juries. They will keep shooting us in the back or in our beds while we sleep. They will keep saying they feared for their lives after they do it. Black folks, I need you to stop calling it a boycott. We're not boycotting anything. You need to circulate the black dollar forever for our economic power. It's not a boycott. It's a replacement. We will circulate the black dollar. We will build an infrastructure. We will govern ourselves because we have no choice. This pathetic society will never change. They are still raising their children to be just as racist as they are.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the fallout from the Carmelo Anthony trial, okay, because the pro-blackity blacks and Carmelo's family, they're having a hard time accepting reality, which is that Carmelo Anthony is a murderer and he's going to do a whole lot of time in prison. And there's not that much that they can do in order to change that, but they're trying, right? They're desperate. Of course, they filed an appeal that likely is not going to go anywhere, but they're trying nonetheless to appeal this verdict because they believe that the trial was racist.
A white person can hit a black boy and get away.
That's it.
Yeah. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
They send a message. Yeah.
We love y'all.
It ain't the end of the road.
We love y'all. Y'all done became our family too. Y'all done brought us too.
You did a good job.
Moments ago, Texas teen Carmelo Anthony plans to appeal his murder conviction in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet last year when they were both 17 years old. The jury sentenced him to 35 years in prison. Metcalf's father, Jeff, giving an emotional victim impact statement during the sentencing hearing. Quote, "The public response sickens me, especially when a gag order doesn't allow me to defend my son. This was never about race or politics, but what you did was to choose to make it about both. We all bleed the same color. You are free to make choices all your life, but you are not free to not face consequences." Correspondent Brooke Taylor reporting live from McKinney, Texas with the latest. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Martha. We just got word that Anthony's legal team has filed that notice of appeal, but just seconds ago, we wrapped up an interview with the district attorney and the lead prosecutor on the case. I could tell you they are extremely confident with the verdict here. There was no cameras in the courtroom, so it's our first time really hearing from them. Take a listen to what they told me their reaction was.
Just relief. Relief that 12 members of our community, the jurors, saw it the same way we did. That this was murder, plain and simple, and then they saw punishment like we saw it, that he needed a lengthy prison sentence. I was relieved. I thought it would be murder, but until you hear it, of course, a jury can do whatever they want as long as they're following the law. So I was relieved for the family, mostly.
And And the jury sentenced Carmelo Anthony to 35 years behind bars for fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf during a high school track meet. Both the DA and lead prosecutor told me they were satisfied with this sentence, even though Anthony faced up to 99 years behind bars. They also said that they were prepared for Anthony to take the stand, and they hoped that he would. Now, I asked what they believed the strongest piece of evidence here was. They both pointed to the surveillance footage. Despite being grainy and shot across the field, they said it reinforced their argument that Anthony wasn't surrounded and this was a one-on-one confrontation despite the defense's self-defense claim. Now, the lead prosecutor told me the national spotlight, it definitely added pressure, but he said they had to tune out that noise, and some of that noise played out in the courtroom. Martha, he told me that race was certainly not a factor, and have people actually pay attention closely to this case and hear what the witnesses had to say, they would know that.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? Carmelo plans to appeal, right? They're going to appeal. And of course, the pro-blacks are already out here fundraising on behalf of a convicted murderer. Take a look.
I'm putting up to $75,000 for the kids' appeal. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just watching a video on that when you called.
Yeah. I'm putting it. They need 150, but I'm putting up 75. But I'm trying to raise $1 million.
Send me the links when you got it.
I will. So I'm finna set up an interview with with the dad and Say Cheese TV at a black church with a black pastor who I'm trust, and this will be the mom and dad first time talking. Let me just say this: black people hurt this family. Black people showed up in the beginning when this kid first committed the crime. It was 2 or 3 weeks had passed before black people found out, because black people didn't care when they thought it was just 2 kids who had committed a murder. They was worried about the rapper and his baby being killed, so they ignored Carmelo and Austin Metcalf.
And of course, unsurprisingly, they're coming up with all types of Looney Tunes conspiracy theories as to why they believe that this is going to get overturned on appeal, because these people are not going to let go of Carmelo, right? Their dear murderer, okay? They're not going to let him go, so they're hoping that he will be able to get this overturned on appeal. However, I am very, very, very skeptical that his appeal will be successful. Take a look.
White jurors, but the fact that there were no black jurors, what was your feeling that day, as I'm sure you were watching this case from the start?
I joined the community outraged by the situation, because at the end of the day, the reasons that the prosecution used in order to strike those 3 African-American women from the jury who was qualified and on the basis of education, and even the judge didn't even really give a lot of thought into it before he denied the defense objection to it, right?
You said something during the trial, or actually before the trial started, that you wanted people to join you in the fight against white supremacy. Where does white supremacy come into this?
Well, I think that there was multiple situations that happened that day that weren't introduced to the actual court. But at the end of the day, I think it was a huge problem from the beginning of this case.
Carmelo Anthony will still be proven not guilty on appeal, and here's why. So there's a lot of speculation on my last video. People wanted Carmelo to be convicted just because of his skin color and their feelings. But what the law reads and the law states is different than what people feel and what people see and what people trying to make it out of race motivated. So here's why he will win on appeal. So if you was actually watching the trial and you know the law, you know he will be granted an appeal and his ruling will be overturned instantly once they review the transcripts from the trial. One of the main reasons he will win his trial is because the prosecutor brought multiple lay witnesses on the stand, and after cross-examining them and after questioning them, the prosecutor asked them, "Do you think this is self-defense?" And guess what they said every time? "No, I do not think this is self-defense. I think he is guilty." You can't do that. And the defense team had to be working with the prosecutors and the family, because if I was on the defense team and I was Carmelo's lawyer, I would have said, objection, Your Honor, that is an impermissible question. That is leading the jury. That is persuading the jury. A lay witness cannot answer a question deciding the verdict or they cannot give their opinion on the verdict, and the jury cannot hear that, which could cause the jury to be persuaded. Because if you got a lay witness who witnessed the crime and they say, oh, I don't think it's self-defense, only an expert that is in law can answer that type of question. A lay witness who is not an expert in anything cannot answer a question deciding the verdict and the guilt of the suspect. The jury cannot hear that. That is an impermissible question. The defense team should have said, objection, Your Honor, that is an impermissible question, which is leading the jury to persuasion. That's why he will win his appeal almost instantly, because the jury can hear multiple lay witnesses get on the stand and say, oh, I don't think this is self-defense. You're not an expert in law. You don't know what self-defense is. You don't know what the law is on self-defense. You a high school student. How can you know this?
So we now have a sentence. Is there grounds for an appeal as we look forward to the next steps in this case for Karmelo?
The first is, are we in the right county? Should we be in Collin County? I mean, the law says you should be, but I mean, is there a problem with publicity or we just can't be there? Then we go to the race issue, because that's before we even start the trial, we got to have a jury. And so did we do that right? And then once we got the trial going and heard all the evidence, did we tell the jury what to do correctly?
Cole says one of the biggest issues likely to come up on appeal is how the jury was selected. The defense argued black jurors were improperly removed from the panel, a potential violation of what's known as the Batson Law.
The argument is it's not so much that the jury pool is all white. The problem is when the jurors were struck, because both sides have the right to take people off that they don't like. The Anthony argument is that the prosecution used it to get rid of the black jurors.
If this goes to an appeal court, what is the likelihood and the probability that this case gets thrown out?
A lot of it will depend in the advocacy and how the court reacts to it. Is the issue in front of the Court of Appeals a question of fact, a question of law? A question of fact is what happened. If the Court of Appeals sees it as questions of law, the chance of success goes way up.
Generally, the absence of a juror of a certain race in and of itself would not be a strong appellate point. On the other hand, challenging a juror, prospective juror, removing a prospective juror from the jury based on his race would be a very strong appellate point. Jurors are seated randomly by number. So if hypothetically in Collin County, the first 20 people seated as prospective jurors were all white males, the jury would likely be predominantly white males. On the other hand, if there were a handful of black people on the jury, and hypothetically the prosecutor were of everyone specifically based on being black, that would be a very strong argument to raise an appeal. So a lot of folks might think, oh, a jury of your peers means a jury that looks like you. No, it doesn't. A jury of your peers means a group of people from the community, period.
This appeal process isn't going to be a quick one. It could take weeks, even months, for the court reporter here to produce a trial transcript. And that is just step one in the appeal process to get it going. We do expect the appeal to be heard by the 5th District Court of Appeals in downtown Dallas. That's where cases appealed out of Collin.
Yeah. So as always, I have a brutal reality check for the pro-blacks, the Carmelo supporters, the murderer supporters, who are hoping that Karmelo, a murderer, will get off or win this appeal. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. You're not entitled to an all-black jury, right? Or even one black person on a jury. That's not how this works, okay? But, I don't expect these people to understand how things work, because if they actually understood how stuff works, they wouldn't be supporting the murder, right? So ultimately today, there's no need to explain to the low IQ why Karmelo is not going to win on appeal, but just understand that this is a grift, right? The grift is going to continue. They're going to claim that this is racist. They're making this guy a martyr, and they're going to continue to raise money off of this, right? That's what's happening, right? That's exactly what's happening, and it's very sick, okay? You're already starting to see the psyop play out here, okay, as you have Karmelo's girlfriend who posted this on social media, okay, as Carmelo was found guilty. So she posted some pictures of her and him, right, trying to make him seem like, you know, a normal kid. And, you know, she's Venezuelan, right? She had Venezuelan flags in her profile at one point, right? So I believe she's Venezuelan. But anyways, yeah, she just crossed the border. She probably did out in Texas. Her name is Valeria Perez, okay? And she says, quote, "Hold your head high, my sweet boy. You're not alone. We're fighting for you always. I love you more than words." Kayla Haynes, Anthony's mother, also spoke out in a social media post after her son was hauled off to Collin County Jail, where he will be held until he's ultimately moved to a state prison. Quote, "But God, the fight is not over." You know, I think the Bible says that thou shalt not murder, right? I think that's one of the 10 commandments. You're not supposed to murder. So I'm not sure why they are calling God, right? When I think that your son being locked up is what God would want, right? I mean, again, you just, you know, open up the Bible. She says, quote, "It has just begun." Anthony's uncle, Andre Anthony, posted on Instagram, "Whatever it takes, hashtag free Melo." Tony Hayes, Anthony's grandmother, was captured on video yelling racist bias. Yeah, that was the video that I showed you guys earlier. Yeah, so their whole family is boohoo whining crown racism, okay? Again, even a girlfriend is speaking out, okay? And unfortunately, I have a brutal reality check for Carmelo's girlfriend, which is that Carmelo is not her boyfriend anymore. Carmelo is going to be somebody else's boyfriend in prison. If he's lucky, right? If he's lucky, because who knows? He might turn into somebody's girlfriend, to be honest with you. Carmelo's gonna be somebody's girlfriend, and he's gonna have a boyfriend in prison. So I'm just saying, he's not yours anymore, right? He's not yours anymore. You might as well get used to that reality, okay? So this is Carmelo's mugshot as he gets hauled off to prison where he belongs.
Less than 24 hours after being sentenced for the murder of Austin Metcalf, Carmelo Anthony has been moved out of Collin County and into the state's prison system. This is the picture just sent to us within the last half hour from the TDCJ. We're told he's being held in the Wallace PAC unit near Navasota, a little more than 70 miles northwest of Houston. Fox 4's Alex Boyer is following that and Anthony's appeal that started today. He joins us now live with an update. Alex.
Yeah, a lot happening since he was convicted and sentenced, Steve. Carmelo Anthony has filed that notice to appeal. I can tell you it's with the 5th Supreme Judicial District of Texas. That's here in Dallas. And looking over the document, I thought it was interesting that Anthony notes that he is destitute and is now asking for a court-appointed attorney.
I want to make sure that it's clear, I think, to everybody that when you begin to see appeals in the Carmelo Anthony case, it's not because something has, something is just glaringly like it was just this bias and everything was terrible. It is absolutely the next natural step.
Criminal defense attorney Bree West, who is not involved in the Carmelo Anthony case, is giving some legal insight into what happens next now that the 19-year-old has been convicted of murder for the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf.
This process is not over. I think that it's important that people understand that the appellate process is a necessary part of our criminal justice system.
On Wednesday, Anthony filed a notice of appeal to the 5th Court of Appeals in Dallas. In it, Anthony states that he is a penniless, destitute, and indigent person, too poor to employ counsel. He goes on to say, "I pray that the court will appoint an attorney to represent me in this appeal."
Yeah, so apparently they ran out of all that money. That $500,000 that they raised, more than $500,000. A lot of it went to Dominique Alexander, Carmelo's handler, right? But Carmelo apparently is broke. This is what they're saying. The family is broke, okay? They're broke. And they want a public defender for the appeal. Now, again, the pro-blacks are probably going to try to raise money to get Carmelo a lawyer, and it's going to go in the pockets of, again, his handlers, and the family's probably going to blow it on, I don't know, a new car or something, right? I don't know exactly. I'm just saying that it's just crazy to me how they blew over $500,000. And the trial, the defense was pretty pathetic, right? To be honest with you. And it's not because I don't think they had a good lawyer. I think it's just because he doesn't have a real defense. So at this point, it doesn't matter how much money they raise, who they hire, right? They're not going to be able to get Carmelo off. It's just not going to happen. He's going to serve at least 18 years, right? At least 18 years, okay? 17.5 technically, but yeah, basically he's going to serve 18 years at the very least, bare minimum.
You're going to always appeal on sizable sentences to make sure that as you objected, and if those objections were overruled for whatever reason, that some higher body, some higher court is going to say to that lower court, you didn't do that right, or nope, all good. And if everything is all good, that sentence stands.
While that appeal plays out, Anthony, who had been under house arrest up until his conviction Tuesday, will begin serving his 35-year prison sentence. Anthony must serve at least half of that, more than 17 years, before he is eligible for parole.
Parole eligibility and parole release are not the same thing. So at the halfway mark is when Carmelo Anthony becomes eligible for parole. Whether or not that parole will be granted is up to a totally different body that's inside of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
And so it's worth pointing out that in the state of Texas, a convict does not have a choice as to where they will serve out their or their sentence, rather. Ultimately, it comes down to where there is room and where Anthony is safe. And as of tonight, we know where he's ended up.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. Okay. Wow. Yeah, the grift continues. I don't think that this is over in regards to the internet drama, right? And the outrage. I do think it's over in regards to Carmelo's fate. But they made him a martyr, and they're going to try to use this as a way to, again, grift, right? And for a whole bunch of people, race hustlers, to make money, misleading their naive and very stupid, low IQ followers. And honestly, if you contribute to this grift, then you deserve to lose your money, right? You really do at this point, to be honest with you. Because, again, an intelligent person, right? Somebody of average intelligence can clearly see that this is murder. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people in this country thinking with their skin color and not their brains. And this is the result, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.